Well, it's time for Season 21 to have a look at some football, local football action, and we have got one of the biggest gurus in the business to give us the lowdown of what's going on in River Murray football. We are joined by Big Brucey.
G'day there, Clayton. How you going? And what a big week in River Murray football. It's the biggest week in South Australian country football. It's the only biggest week in South Australian country football because River Murray, the only league playing this weekend as we get going for 2021. And look, there's lots of talk around, especially down the main street of Murray Bridge Street, where lots of folk are saying it's too early for football and River Murray should have started 2 weeks' time with everybody else. But that's how the cookie crumbles. It's good to have footy back. The only thing I will say is if it finishes like the cricket where we had the 2 weeks shut down for COVID, if that was to come in with the football season, well, I'm sure people would be saying then, well, wasn't that a great idea to start 2 weeks early? Because that could be maybe the River Murray's thinking, but it's certainly my thinking that the 2 weeks earlier to start may just come into play during the season if we had some sort of COVID virus re-enter the South Australian area. But look, it's been a big off-season of River Murray football, and look, the big talk obviously is and has been the Meningie Footy Club and the resurrection of the club down there. There was talks that they may fold, but the Meningie troops down there have got together and they've had some very sharp shovels and they've dug deep and they've got their club back in for 2021. And must say a big well done to all the folk down there at Meningie to get that club up and running. It takes a lot of volunteers and they have really, really dug deep for their Bear Park. And we'll have a look at some of the clearances quickly as we'll start with Meningie. And look, the big story is they will probably, looks like, not have Matt Hartman. He will play at Rambler, so not choosing to go back to Meningie, who will be a big, huge loss for the club. Others to depart, Ben Gibbs, who was coming last year with the COVID period, but now that's all finished, he's going back to Encounter Bay. Another loss for them is Alex Scott, who's going to the Hills, and Dylan Biggins, who's going back to the Adelaide Footy League. So they're three big noticeable outs for Meningie. Coming into the side, great to see the return of local legend Sam Sanders. He's been playing forward up in the York Peninsula Footy League up there, and coming back to Meningie is a great welcome back into Bear Park, and they'll certainly enjoy him back in the side. Also coming in is Tom Schaefer from the Adelaide Footy League, Prince Alfred College, old collegians, and Schaefer returning to the club, played there a couple of years ago. And another in for them is, of course, Darcy Spinks, who is a forward from the Hume Football League, Greater Western Sydney, and they'll be looking for him to kick some goals for them up front. Tyler Robinson journeys down the highway down to Bear Park from Jervois, so that he'll be looking for a regular game in the A grade. Look, they've picked up some other players we don't know too much about, Lachlan McFarlane and George Wilkes and Joseph Rolach from the northern areas, Whyalla and Port Lincoln. So they've got a few players to work with. They'll be led by Adam Moller, who is the coach returning from to the club. He coached or played for Meningie 20 years ago in the 2001 Premiership, and they'll be certainly looking to his experience to lead the club down there. They will be up against the might of Taylor Ben, who I think will be a much improved side in River Murray this year. I'm tipping Taylor Ben to get up around that top 3 position, which will be a tremendous effort for them if they can do so. At the helm is Corey Smelt, and he'll be joined by Ben Hansen, the former, he's a local of Taylor Ben, but he's played a few years down at Sturt, and he's got about 100 games down there in the Sturt League side. Look, if Ben Hansen can stay fit, he'll really, really take it right up to the other clubs up forward. They'll look for him to kick some goals. Noticeable outs for Taylor Ben, the likes of Travis Burns, Seamus McMurray, last year's medal winner, and William McMurray and James Pitchett, who all return to the KNT. They've also lost a couple of other players in the likes of Connor Oxton back to Mypolonga, and Denver Garlett to Ramblers, and Jake Pilgrim to the Barossa Light and Gawler. Looking at some ins for Taylor Ben, they've got quite a few arrivals, and I've seen a couple of these blokes play last year covering the Southern Football League. Miles Sumner, Thomas Starkey, Ben Rossi. These guys can play. They are very good footballers. And you throw in Cole Prompton from Whyalla with some Port Adelaide and North Adelaide experience. Taylor Ben are going to be much improved in this season. They've picked up Brady Morris from Mypolonga and Scott Chandler from Jervois. So a couple of kindred club clearances. And Taylor Ben will be up and about in season 2021. Looking at a winner of this match, Taylor Ben up against Meningie, down at Meningie. Look, I just think Taylor Ben look a bit too much settled at this stage with their forward line, and they should get the job done with the likes of Connor Smelt up forward, the son of the coach Corey Smelt, and Ben Hansen to kick them a winning score. Meningie, well, they'll look to their new recruit or their local coming home in Sam Sanders, who no doubt will play forward and try and kick them a winning score. But I think Taylor Ben should be too good, and they should get the points 31-40.
All right, Bruce, I've been told to, whatever you tip, go the opposite way, so we're going for Meningie, so just so you're aware of that. Moving on to the next game, Manham v Ramblers.
Manham v Ramblers will be the match of the round, and looking at Manham, they'll be continuing on the coaching roles there of Wayne Knowles, and he's been appointed till 2022 that season, so a couple more years. And he'll be assisted by one of the River Murray's greats in Ben Quinn, who's going around again. Just an absolute soldier for the Manaroos. And looking at some of their arrivals, unfortunately, it looks like they couldn't get Josh Dodd back to the club from up your area. He's been playing at Kapunda, and Josh Dodd, I understand, had a two-year deal up there, and he is being denied the clearance. So that was one of their big hopefuls to get back at Roo Park, not to be. Some of their other clearances, Dylan Ribbons coming back to the club, so he'll be a handy pickup, but everyone wants to see their trump card from the Adelaide Footy League and Seaton Ramblers to Manham, and that is Tommy Lee Russo. Look, he's got a bit of SANFL experience at Glenelg, and he is one that the Manham Roos are looking to get plenty of ball down to in the forward lines, whether it be at centre half forward or full forward, and finish the job off. They've got Aidan Holland returning to the club from the Sandful and Bailey Bougen. Some of their outs, they've got Michael O'Malley staying at the club as well, so that's another big in for them. But their departures consist of a couple of guns. Chris Rudiger, a real strong backman heading back to Karoonda, and Bryson Keeley, who was a real up-and-coming emerging ruckman, and he's departing for the Adelaide Plains. And another out for them is Liam Newton and of course Adam Smythe, two very good players. Of course, was it Newton, I think, won the medal last year, so a long time ago with all this COVID. But some big outs for Manham. I think they're probably sitting about level with last year. I'm expecting them to sit somewhere around about in that top four area. They're going to be up against Ramblers. Taking a quick look at Ramblers, some departures there for them, which aren't real good for the club in Sam Pfeiffer and the big man in Kieran Yakis. He's just a big, tall timber and takes a big mark. He can play forward, he can play back. So those sort of blokes, Clayton, aren't going to be easy to replace for Ramblers, and at this stage, on paper, they don't look to have replaced them. So big outs for Ramblers, Kieran Yackis and Sam Pfeiffer, and that's going to make things rather difficult there on Ramsey Street. Coming into the side, look, they've picked up not too much. They've got a lot of clearances from within the league, but nothing too much standing out. I guess one of their biggest clearances is Owen Love from Jervois, who will coach the reserve side. Remains to be seen whether he'll play A grade. But Ramblers are working on, and they've done this for years, on the nucleus of their young kids coming through. And they have quite a lot of emerging talent from their under 17.5 last year, and they'll look to develop them with coach Alex Button. Look, picking a winner in this one, I think you'd probably have to go on the home ground out there at Manham. They just look just a little bit stronger on paper at this time of the year, and Tommy Lee Russo to get them home with Michael O'Malley, the Rock of Gibraltar, on the back line to stop all the Ramblers' forward thrust. So for me, Manham should get the job 21-30.
I kind of tend to agree with you, Bruce, and that's the word that's been given to me in my ear as we speak. Moving on to the final game, we've got Maipalonga and Imperials, and of course Jervois have the bye for round one.
Well, Maipalonga and Imperials is, I think, going to be one-way traffic all the Blues' way. Look, Maipalonga have lost some big players in season 2021. They may still have a couple of these blokes in the likes of James Moss and Rory Taggart. Just have one or two more games before the other leagues start up. That is the rumour going around that James Moss and Rory Taggart may still suit up for Ramblers, for Maipo, in these first couple of games before the other leagues get underway. Of course, Rory Taggart getting a clearance down to Narracourt in the KNT, and James Moss, of course, heading up to the into the Northern Leagues. So, look, they are big departures. York Peninsula, James Moss heading to there. And you throw some of their others in, Ben Davis to Encounter Bay, Brady Morris, as we said earlier, to Tailem Bend, and then you've got in doubt Clint Demont put in a clearance for Bordertown, Tom Hooper, Ben Goble to the Great Southern, Lachlan Butler to the Great Southern. Look, these are big clearances that have been put in. They're not officially signed off yet with the ink, but it looks a fair certainty that these guns will not be available for Maipo, which is really going to force a lot of pressure back on their players that they've got there in the likes of Jake Altman and Todd Howson. I see Brad Martin has shined up the boots. Sam Martin's coming back to play. Corey Jones. So it's going to leave a lot of pressure on these sort of blokes to get the job done for them and their emerging talent. Look, they'll be led by Matt Limner, who's taking on his first season as coach. And look, it will be a difficult season with those guys departing. Russell Tucker is another one that comes to mind. He'll be the assistant coach, and Mark Oborn also assisting the coaching. So Maipo really will struggle, I think, in season 2021 up against the strong outfit of the Imperials. They are the favourites from here at this time of the year. And look, that goes without saying. They've got some pretty handy 0-pointers back to the club in Brad Oates, Dwayne Wilson, Sean Samblick, Mitch Leanett. Look, they've got some pretty handy returns for the Imperials club. And when you throw that into the likes of what they've got there now in Johnny Boris up forward, Luke Harrifield, Scott McMahon, look, Imperials definitely go in favourite. They've got a couple of recruits that everyone's waiting to see in Ash Tunbridge from the Adelaide Footy League and the Montgomerys. A lot of talk about them from the Hills, and they'll be looking to these guys to go that one step further. So, yeah, Imperials for me, they look the favourites at this stage, and we'll see them, I think, defeat Maipalonga fairly comfortably 51-60 in this match of round one, River Murray. Picking a top 7 as we do on the first show for River Murray, I have penned in Imperials on top, Jervois, who have got the bye this weekend, in second. I've got Tailem Bend to be the big improvers to sit in third, Manham in fourth, and then wrapping up the 5 with Ramblers And unfortunately, I can't see Meningie or Maipalonga in that order. Maybe I'll switch that around the other way, Clayton, live on air. I'll go Maipalonga 6th and Meningie on the bottom in 7th. So that's how I see the season. It should be a big opening round tomorrow, with the match of the day looking like being Ramblers and Manham. But look, don't worry, those Bears down there at Bear Park, they'll be clawing their way against the Tailem Bend Eagles. And who knows, they might just take it right up to them. And if they're close at three-quarter time, it could be an exciting finish. But look, Tailem Bend for me, I think they've got the cattle in the paddock, as they say, and should get the job done. It will be a great opening round. And great to be back in our 18th year of talking River Murray footy, and 20 years this year, the Flow team, for South Australian country footy. Of course, it all began back in 2001 there, Clayton.
Certainly did.
The Flow man doing the Barossa. And look, it's great to be back again in the Flow's 20th year covering South Australian country footy.
Well, it's going to be another big year for us, Bruce, and we're glad you're a part of it. And, yeah, getting a bit misty-eyed as you started the memories rolling back right then. It's going to be fun talking to you for the next couple of weeks before the boys. I'll hand it over to them, and that way they can understand exactly what you just said, because I have no idea what you were talking about then, but it all sounded really good to me. No, only kidding. No, it was all good, and tend to agree with you on those tips. I just wanted, you mentioned that Meningie, how a lot of volunteers helped to get the side back up and the club back up for this year. Just want to do a shout-out to them, and also to all the other volunteers that help make that happen right across all the clubs and all the leagues. Without the volunteers, our competitions really do fall down. So a big shout out to all those, and thank you, Bruce.
And of course, more on the volunteers with all this COVID. There's still lots of cleaning and stuff to be done, and volunteers really are the driving force in local footy clubs across anywhere.
Exactly.
And no doubt about that. We're hats off to them. So to the volunteers. All right, buddy, we'll catch up with you next week.